What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another Aegis Brand Studios video where we are taking a look at one of the most recent panel-to-play reveals for Atomic Mass Games' Marvel Crisis Protocol. As usual, I'm Leland. I'm your host for both Battle Reports and Potato Hot Takes. And today we're looking at the other half of the most recent Inhumans reveal, which is Karnak. Kind of cool. I really actually like this character. I think he brings some really interesting tech to the table. Very excited to see what he's going to do. So let's go take a look at the character. And remember, guys, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like, comment, subscribe button down below. Helps get the video out there, improves the reach, lets other people know that this is content that might be worth watching for them. Or, of course, you can go to patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. A couple bucks a month. Keeps the lights on, keeps content current, allows me to keep doing this. And I can't thank all my patrons enough for that support that they give me on that one. With that having been said, let's get into it. So we got Karnak. He is another 3-threat Inhuman that has been revealed in that big box that we have coming out shortly. With Gorgon, Maximus the Mad, and King Blackbolt. And he's got some interesting kit, and he's going to, in my opinion, make the Inhumans feel a lot more consistent with what he brings to the table. So his defensive stats, he's a 3-3-4 for his defensive stats. So he's got that really nice Mystic defensive 4 to 3 threat. Otherwise, everything is pretty standard. He is only 5 and 5 for stamina, so he is a little bit on the squishier side of things. He's not going to be able to stand up to as much punishment as beefier characters, like, for instance, even just Gorgon, who has that 6 stamina on his front side there. 3 threat, range or size 2 with a medium move on a regular size base. So that's all very typical of 3 threat characters. We've seen that before quite a bit. The 5 stamina has me a little concerned, but then again, Inhumans does have a lot of sort of dice fixing capabilities attached to them. So there are ways of protecting them and trying to keep them up. So it might not be the big issue that it is with other characters, but it does mean if you want to splash him into a team that maybe doesn't have that sort of defensive tech or dice mitigation, he's not going to really perform as well as he might in his home affiliation. So for his attacks, he's got a physical attack, Shattering Strike, range 2, 5 dice, 0 power. It is a builder with a wild push, where you're going to push a target character away short. No size restriction on this, so size 4, size 5 characters, he's able to push them. It's a nice little bit of control, of character control, if you get him within that range too. Maybe run him up, push him off objective, try to aim for that wild with all the mitigation and everything like that. I kind of like it. It's very simple. The fact that it's not restricted to a size is really kind of nice, because it does mean even those beefier characters like the Malekiths, the Hulks, stuff like that, you're still able to move them off the board as a result. Next up, we have Let Me Show You Your Flaw, which is his spender. It is range 3, 7 dice for 4 power. It has, when you calculate the successes for this attack, you're going to be adding skulls in both the attack and defense roll to its total successes. Really solid. So yeah, these sort of attacks where all of a sudden those skulls, which are normally a really negative thing for you, are now becoming a positive. It's actually really kind of cool. It stretches that 7 dice just a little bit further, because now it means every facing except for the blank is actually going to do something for you, and in the event that the other person rolls skulls, those are going to help you out as well. So I really dig these ones. It also means if you roll into a skull, you're still getting a success, which is really nice. So it even helps with that with the dice mitigation and avoiding the bad dice reroll. Next up, we got his powers. He's got an active power. It's 0 power. It's an action, and he's going to gain 2 power. We've seen this on Wong. It's really kind of cool, especially in Inhumans if you're using original Black Bolt, where you can pass power around. It works very nicely in that regard. Can't really argue against it. We have another active, Teachings of the 3 Worlds for 4 power. Now, this one is a really interesting one, and I think this one is kind of like the key to his kit. When another allied character within 3 of him makes an attack or defense roll, so mind you, not Karnak. He can't use it himself. You can spend 4 power to do this. The allied character can use up to 2 of their skull results as part of their total successes. So again, this is a really nice way of mitigating a bad dice roll, or maybe mitigating some dice that have rerolled into a skull. And at range 3, it's got a pretty good range band, because that is almost a third of the board right there. Like you're getting almost a square foot on the board itself, because range 3 is 6 inches plus the base. So it is really, really nice on that one. I think this is a fantastic ability, especially paired with a lot of the other tech that Inhumans has. Next up, we have Pinpoint Weakness, which is a reactive ability for 2. After an attack targeting this character is resolved, or this character resolves an attack, it can use the superpower. You're going to place a weakness token on Sorry, you're going to place a weakness token on or move an existing weakness token, so kind of like the vengeance tokens from Drax, to the defending enemy character. There can only be one weakness token in play or the character can only have one weakness token in play at a time. So what does this mean? Well, it's going to pair very nicely into the next ability, which is an innate analyzing strike. When this character attacks or defends against an attack from an enemy character with a weakness token, the character rolls 3 additional dice. And then after the attack is resolved, the weakness token is removed. So all of a sudden that 5 die shattering strike becomes 8 die shattering strike. That let me show you your flaw becomes 10 dice. It is very, very nice in that regard. The only downside is that you do have to get the pinpoint weakness onto the enemy character first. But it does mean Karnak is really good at going in and really hammering down on a single character. If you can get that weakness token on them, you can throw a whole bunch of extra dice and use a bunch of the tools to really improve the quality of those dice. So I really like it. I think this is very cool. He does have the typical Inhuman, which is a standard reroll for attack or defense dice. He also has Martial Artist, so it's physical or energy attacks within range 2. He's going to be able to count his blanks. Now, very notably on Karnak, he misses the immunity to poison that a lot of the other Inhumans have. He's just not immune to it. So I don't know enough about the Humans to know whether or not that's really relevant or not, but it's kind of interesting. Now, he does also have the Royal Guardians tactic card that he shares with Gorgon as well. It is that Heroes for Hire style of card, where a character within range 3, when they're targeted by attack, you can spend the 3 power, placed within one of the target. If it's Karnak and they don't get dazed afterwards and there's no allied weakness tokens on the battlefield, you're going to place a weakness token onto the attacking character. It's not quite as good as the Shock and Stun that Gorgon puts out, but it's still an interesting one, and it does set up Karnak's kit to basically start going full throttle on his next activation, assuming he hasn't already activated. So it's cool, and it's a bodyguard effect. Sometimes just being able to redirect an attack is a big deal in and of itself. You know, maybe it saves a character who's on 1 or 2 stamina and allows Karnak to take a hit and he's got full or something like that. So you can never really see that as a downside there. Now, as far as where Karnak exists and everything, I love him in Inhumans. With the amount of dice re-rolling that you have in there and dice fixing, being able to add the extra layer of skulls, albeit for 4 power, it is expensive. It's really kind of nice because it makes your attacks that much more consistent. So when you really need to get that powerful attack through, it's really great. It also means, even if you roll a bunch of skulls and you spike everywhere else and somebody recals you, well, those skulls stick around and they're still going to be counting as successes for you. So I really like him in Inhumans. I think he's really cool in Inhumans. I do think he's also kind of interesting in any other team that has the reroll mechanics to it. Probably not Wakanda, given, again, you usually want to go full Wakanda, but, Shadowland Daredevil, Criminal Syndicate, for instance, also my mind is blanking, you could probably even see some interesting use in Guardians. He fits in really nicely and protect those Wingnut token rerolls into skulls. The big problem is, though, is outside of the teachings of the 3 world and his weakness token mechanic, he doesn't bring a lot of special or unique to the table. So I think he's going to struggle a little bit outside of Inhumans because of that, but that's not to say he doesn't have places there. Like, for instance, being able to reduce the cost of that ability by 1 with Steve 1 could actually be quite beneficial, especially when paired with Steve bodyguarding, just really making him a little bit more defensive, for instance, which I really like in that case as well. Or even, even just as a support into other teams, if you can generate that power to get him up to the 4 power to make sure he's getting that ability off as often as humanly possible, because it can really go a long way. But I do think that there's probably also some diminishing returns with it. There's going to be a point where, you're either not using it enough or you're just rolling too many skulls that it doesn't matter. And I think the reality is you're probably not going to be able to use it as often as you want to, because the skull result is only a 1 in 8. And I mean, how often is it going to be worth spending 4 power to just get 1 or 2 more successes on there? Unless you're absolutely going to be taking them down, it might not be worth it. But still, it's really kind of cool in that regard. I do like it. The other really cool thing about this is that it also kind of mitigates Maximus the Mad's leadership a little bit. If you happen to roll into a skull with that one, sure, you're still going to get placed, but with Karnak, you can still make it an actual damage that goes through as well. So really kind of cool. I do think it's probably more beneficial on the defensive rolls than on the offensive rolls, because I think blocking damage is always just a little bit better than dealing damage in some cases, because the dice are always kind of weighted towards the offensive dice as it is. So there we go. That's Karnak. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about him, if you're excited for all the great new Inhumans that we're going to be seeing in the near future. And of course, we will see you next time. Happy wargaming.